Hello and welcome to the Contrarians, where we're right and you're wrong. Before we get to the show, let's get the pleasantries out of the way.
First of all, our website. If you want more information about our little podcast, go to wearethecontrarians.com. That's where you'll find links to our old episodes, to our Patreon channel, and to our awesome Contrarians merch.
You can show your support by buying a Contrarians mug or a pillow.
I like the laptop bags myself.
Second of all, if you enjoy the show, tell your friends. Or even go a step further and leave us a 5-star review on whatever platform you use to listen to your podcasts.
Finally, if you want to reach out directly to us, that's what social media is for. Find us on Twitter and Instagram at Contrarian Prime, or check out our Facebook page at facebook.com/Contrarian Prime.
Julio runs our official Twitter account at Contrarian Prime, but if you want to give me a piece of your mind or just want to banter about pro wrestling, you can follow me at Contrarian Alex.
And that's it. That's our intro.
Now, time for the show.
This is all
And we are recording for Contrarians Corner for Burning.
Hello, and welcome to the Contrarians, where we're right and you're wrong. My name is Alex, joined as always by my co-host and friend, someone who I think, if need be, would set a car on fire for me. Not necessarily killing anybody, but...
I mean, I don't know. What else is going on in this hypothetical scenario? Like, have you disappeared? Did I find your dog in someone else's house?
Man, yeah, if you found Nori in someone else's house, then I give you... That means I'm dead, and you can commence. You can handle it any way you please. But
what would be the item of yours that I would find in a drawer? Not a watch. It had to be something a little more. I wouldn't have noticed what kind of watch you were. No, I walk into Steven Yeun's house and your Pandora box is there.
Yeah, or that Roxina, like that. Cardstock poster that I have from the stadium. Either that or like I'm trying to think of like rare DVDs I have that I've gone on and on to you about.
Southland Tales.
Well, that's not rare. It's just unnecessary that I own it. You'd be like, hey, when did you get Halloween 4 on 3 different forms of media? Anyway, that's Julio Oliveira. And what we are jesting about will make a lot more sense if you haven't seen this movie in the hour to come. We are here today to discuss the 2018 Korean film Burning, starring Steven Yeun of I Think You Should Leave fame.
I mean, most people know him from The Walking Dead, but okay.
Had a sloppy mud pie, grabbed too small a slice. He is the one that gets a really awful fate in The Walking Dead, correct?
Yes. Unlike this movie where he gets...
A dignified exit. Is that old enough now? He's the guy, Walking Dead spoiler ahead. He's the guy that, potentially, he's the guy that gets killed by the comedian, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's an even older spoiler because it already happened in the comics years prior to it happening on the show, so.
It's like, during our Sopranos watch through, my sister was like worried about spoilers. I'm like, the show's like 20 years old, dude.
It's on you now.
It falls on you. Based on Barn Burning by Hakuri Murakami. Just to go ahead and get out of the way right now. Some of these pronunciations may not be spot on, so I apologize to all the players involved. We're going to do our best here.
They're not wrestlers, so Alex hasn't quite nailed the pronunciation.
Well, in my defense in that means I've heard their name pronounced correctly many, many times, and in this case, not so much. All right, well, we're going to get to why we're talking about the 2018 Korean film Burning here momentarily, the 2018 South Korean Japanese psychological thriller film. Co-written, produced, and directed by Lee Chang-dong, and as I mentioned, it's based off a short story called Barn Burning, with elements inspired by William Faulkner's story of the same name. So there's some of the Faulkner tie-in to this. Julio, you and I, we comprise the Contrarians. We're going to go ahead and explain what it is we do here to any and all potential new listeners or first-time listeners. Here on the Contrarians, we like to rage against the Rotten Tomatoes machine. That is our battle cry. Find a movie on Rotten Tomatoes that is highly rated, a lot of times accompanied with that wonderful IP denoting that it is truly, indeed, certified fresh. And what we'll do with those movies is bring them down to size, discuss some misses more than hits in them, maybe poor direction, questionable acting, slow pacing, bad score, bad soundtrack, lazy writing, whatever we need to do to make a case. We leave no stones unturned and no cards not played. Conversely, we'll find a movie on Rotten Tomatoes that is lowly rated, usually about 30% and below, one of those nasty green splotches known as rotten. And as you could guess, what we'll do is make a case for that film's positive merit, praise its acting, directing, bold storytelling, score, soundtrack, cinematography, whatever it takes. We'll make our case one way or another. We do this for two reasons. Predominantly because this shit is subjective. If you want to be, you can be as over the moon about something, or if you truly set your heart to it, you can be as downright cynical about something if you choose to be. It's kind of funny the hurdles people sometimes in real life will jump to do just what we're parodying here. And number two, the Rotten Tomatoes system a lot of times we feel is kind of flawed in the sense of, for the most part, you can't really tell the whole story of a movie by giving it a grade like you would a test. So we're here to kind of do the legwork for y'all. Being that Burning sits at a very comfortable 95% with that certified fresh logo next to it, during the first portion of the podcast, we will be treating it as though it were bad, as daunting a task that may be. But that goes to comprise the first half of our show, what we call Contrarians Corner. Julio, if listeners want to know how we really feel about the movie we're tackling, they just need to stick around for the second half for part two.
That is correct. The second part of every episode, aptly titled Real Talk, that's where we tell you how we really feel. We forget about the Rotten Tomatoes score, we drop the gimmick, or we're just honest about how we experience the movie. Many times is our first watch. That's the case with Burning. I'd never seen it. Alex had never seen it. It just got plopped on our desk. and then we just had to deal with it. So we'll find out how each other feels on the second half, along with the feelings from the person that demanded we cover this movie. Here during the patron takeover, almost every episode is demanded by a patron. And this time it was Ryan's turn, and he sent his thoughts to be read during Real Talk.
So I was Letterboxd review, so I have a pretty good inclination as to how he feels about this.
Oh, I haven't seen anything. I haven't even read what he sent. So
there you go.
Just going to wing it when we get to Real Talk.
All right, well, that's as good of a place as any to start by saying thank you to our patrons. For those potentially interested in joining, you'll find out how to do so here shortly. All right, Julio, so 95% of Rotten Tomatoes Burning is a crowd pleaser, a teaser, a suspenser.
Fun for the whole family.
Yeah, why not? So what quotes did you pull? What were you able to find that critics were saying about this movie that had a much bigger impact than I thought? It made Rolling Stone's top movies of the decade list. So
what?
Yeah,
I had no idea. You know what the problem is? That this is PC, pre-COVID. So that's just almost like ancient history by now. 2018.
It does feel like a long time ago. When I read that, I was like, my God, what a different time it was. But anyway, besides Rolling Stone, AV Club, Associated Press, Boston Globe, IndieWire, Insider, and Film Comment all had it in their best films of the decade list. So
decade.
I know, and Good Time came out in that same decade. So, and we'll get to it. Julio, what were critics saying about this?
Alex, actually, I shouldn't be surprised that it's in all those lists because there's a lot of pretension in the Rotten Tomatoes page when it comes to this movie. I'm going to start with Robert Kushner from Flickering Myth, who says, Burning will bore the hell out of you for a long time, but never enough to lose interest or tap out before catching you in an anaconda vice. What was once boring becomes an unforgettable work of genius deserving to be repeatedly examined. That's quite a swing. It's going to bore the hell out of you, and then it's going to be a work of genius.
An anaconda vice, that was CM Punk's like finishing submission hold, the anaconda vice.
Did every match start really boring, and then it became a work of genius?
He would tell you so.
Next, Matt Cipolla from Film Monthly says, it unfolds like a poem in its esotericism, wearing the ambiguity on its sleeves that make for something almost entirely transfixing.
God, I almost threw up. Like, I made spaghetti for dinner tonight, and it was really good, and it was almost ruined just hearing those words put together.
Next, Walter Chaw from Film Freak Central. Burning is a masterpiece because it's about Kierkegaardian fear and trembling, and it comes to the same conclusions. Walter Chaw, he's usually pretty salt of the earth. Just
Yeah,
regular guy.
We like Walt on these parts.
Yeah. Kierkegaardian. That's I don't even know. I know I've seen books with that guy's name on them. Kierkegaard. I think he's like a philosopher. I don't know.
Yeah, Kierkegaard. Wayne's World. Was it? Oh fuck! What? There's like a big rant he goes on in Cantonese where he's like, was it Kierkegaard or Dick Van Patten that said, and he has like this really poignant quote that he drops. It's fantastic.
Walter Shaw must be a fan. And finally, Nigel Andrews from Financial Times. I like Haywire. And Burning, in its somberly burnish way, is very Haywire. So first I got really excited because I thought he was talking about the Soderbergh movie, Haywire.
Yeah, the Gina Carano vehicle.
Yes, exactly.
Disgraced actress Gina Carano.
But no, it's Haywire, just lowercase. So I guess he's just talking about, I don't know, Haywire as an adjective, as a condition.
Okay, why not?
Sure, Nigel. Next time, just do a Soderbergh comparison. It'll be a lot more fun.
Erratic, out of control. Also, I had to look it up because it is such a fucking funny line. Was it Kierkegaard or Dick Van Patten who said, "If you label me, you negate me"?
That's Steven Yeun refusing to be labeled by this movie or by the industry. Well, those are the quotes, Alex. I think that we've set the bar as far as just.
I'm ready to stop. That's enough for this episode.
I don't think that there was no way that we could insert Kierkegaard in the conversation on our own. So now we got Walter Shaw to get that weight off our shoulders, and now we can relax and have a normal conversation.
맞네.
여긴 나의 하나뿐인 친구 이종수.
벤이라고 합니다.
혹시 무슨 일 하시는지 물어봐도 돼요?
간단히 말하면 그냥 노는 거예요.
I assume you also watch this on Tubi, the wonderful resource that is Tubi.
No, it's on the cock.
It is?
Yeah.
Son of a bitch. Well, I had to watch like 2 minutes of ads.
3 hours?
No, the ads on Tubi aren't anywhere near as intense as those on Pluto TV. Yeah. So it was enjoyable, and little breaks here and there to get a soda or something were welcome. All right. Lee Jung-soo, an aspiring young novelist, performs odd jobs in Paju. One day, he runs into Shin Hae-mi, a childhood neighbor and classmate, at a promotion at which he is making a delivery. Jung-soo initially does not remember her, but Hae-mi tells him she had plastic surgery. Jung-soo gives her the pink watch that he wins at the promotion. Later, she tells him about her upcoming trip to Africa and asks him to feed her cat, Boyle, while she is away. Before Hae-mi's departure, Jung-soo's father, a cattle farmer, becomes entangled in disagreeable legal affairs, and Jung-soo has to return to their farm. Jung-soo visits Hae-mi's apartment, where he receives instructions about feeding the cat. So that's what kind of starts us off here. I'm going to be honest with you, the first shot of the movie, I was kind of apprehensive because it was the Bourne cam. I was like, oh, here we fucking go. But instead, he just transitions into completely ripping someone off altogether with his Darren Aronofsky shot of Jung-soo walking around town with like a box. And, it's fun in the beginning of this movie, Julio, the long continuous shots. But when you're dealing with a movie that's 2.5 hours, by the end, it's like we could have done this in 3 quick cutaways. Yep. Because this movie consists of several elongated single shot set pieces.
Not everybody can be Aronofsky. I mean, Aronofsky knows that he'll do that because then he's going to rattle you at the end. But this is usually, those really long shots kind of arrive at a very languid, like very slow paced scene anyway. So it's not like they're building up to anything, right? It's not Randy the Ram making his way to the ring. Just this dude walking around the streets and then winning a raffle in the most unenthusiastic way. What do you make of our protagonist? I mean, he is the protagonist, Jung-soo. Do you like him, or was he a little too clueless for your taste?
Yeah, he's a bit daft and kind of plain. There are these moments where he shows some personality that seem kind of interesting, specifically when he's stoned. But then that quickly, goes away. And for the most part, he's emotionless. He's very, not stoic, aloof would be the word I would use to describe him. Because a lot of serious shit is going on, specifically with his, his dad, as we mentioned a second ago, and we'll get to his mother in the movie as well, and just the general crumbling down of reality around him that comes with the fucking 9 hours that this movie takes to conclude. So I can't say he's like a vacuum of charisma or anything like that. Nothing offensive. It's just, you would think he's a bit more startled by the shit that's going on.
I think you can tell what a man is made of as far as his emotions by how he masturbates. And we see this dude jerk off 3 times in the movie. And all 3 times, it seems to be a very underwhelming experience for the audience and for him. And I think that tells you everything about the character. It's like, well, it's not going to be fun. I don't want to follow this guy for 2.5 hours.
Yeah, he just like jerks off looking at scenery. Pull up browsers, man. Treat yourself.
Smile. You're having a good time.
He's got a smartphone, he can find something good in there.
Can you imagine like how much more lively this movie becomes if he just goes nuts in those scenes?
Just gets completely naked and slathers himself in a barbecue sauce or something. Or at least like, we're talking, Philip Seymour Hoffman getting cranked off in The Master. We need some action like that. So as we mentioned, he runs into Jaime, who is reported to be from his childhood. He kind of has a hard time figuring it out, but they quickly become friends and, potential romances in the air when he goes over to her apartment to meet her cat Boyle and kind of gets the rundown on how to feed it. They end up having sex. She relays or regales him, what have you, with a story about when they were kids and he called her ugly and she asked, am I ugly now? And he couldn't really respond to it. And before you know it, they're having sex.
They're having very dispassionate sex.
Well, at least, she grabbed a rubber. She was like, all right, we'll do this, but
responsible dispassionate
we're going to be
sex.
safe. Yeah. And then he just like is going to town whilst looking at the sun setting and
her closet.
Yeah. It's like the reflection, not the reflection of the sun, but the sunlight peering into the room. I guess it's supposed to be artistic.
I felt that
if he wants to look at it that bad, press her up against the window while you're doing your business. And you can both look outside.
Right. Pull a Fassbender in Shame when he's in that high-rise apartment or the hotel room. I felt like this whole sort of a meet cute / sex cute, it takes 20 minutes or more of the movie at the beginning, and he's just so slow on the uptake. It's very clear, I think, for everybody watching that she's interested in him, that she is waving the flag at him, like, hey, this way. And he's just kind of underreacting.
Aloof.
Yeah. What do you make of the fact that he just, after this, he's just obsessed with her?
Yeah, I couldn't grasp how old they're supposed to be, but out of college. So should have kind of been past that phase, my man. But, it could have been great. It could have cut away right before things got interesting.
When she like grabbed his face and made him look away from the window into
put
her
a
eyes.
plastic bag over his head and flipped him over.
The belt around his neck.
Yeah, exactly. So it could have gotten really good, and that was the only thing that got cut out of this movie. But you're absolutely right. If they were like 17 or something, maybe I could understand his obsession and kind of being dog walked a bit more. But it seems a bit far-fetched in this particular example, especially because it's not like it was his childhood crush that he reconnected with after so many long lost years. He didn't even remember who she was. Yep. And then a few days later they're forming the beast with 2 backs, and now he will walk across all hell and creation barefoot for her.
So you think it was the sex, or maybe it was the fact that she's a mime, or she's a mime in training?
She's pretty impressive with those acting skills where she does, there's a scene where she mimes eating a tangerine, I believe she says, and explains like the key to acting. Pretty impressive.
What else was she miming?
The key to his heart, obviously.
Opened an imaginary purse and then fished out an imaginary key, and then she pressed it against his chest.
You know, a mime is a terrible thing to waste.
Jong-soo moves back to the farm that he grew up on as his dad is encountering some legal issues. He assaulted a officer of the law, and he's had previous violations before. We find out that he has a serious anger problem, and it led to Jong-soo's mother and sister moving out many, many moons prior. Now, he gets moved back into the farm. It's a mess, but he's doing his best to kind of, stay with the upkeep. He starts receiving phone calls where there's no one on the other line, and that becomes a reoccurring happening throughout the movie. Fucking Trump, can't escape him. He's on. Did you notice him on the TV during one of the scenes?
My thought was, this is history now.
Mm-hmm.
This is just, it's not a joke. It's just, this is how you establish the timeline. Like, this is when Trump was president, and it's there now. We can't erase it. It's just part of the fabric of American history and world history. Suddenly, no matter what else was going on in the movie, there was just this darkness in that corner of the screen.
Yep. Sad but true. And it sucks to be reminded of it. Especially, I just can't escape it. I was watching UFC the other night, and he was there like in the crowd in the front row. And I know that's my fault for watching the UFC. But in this case, I at least thought my movie podcast was sacred ground. But Ryan just threw us not even a curveball, just the limp overhand. Just meh. All right. So all this we've explained so far literally occupies like the first 45 minutes of the movie.
And you're like, where's Steven Yeun?
Right. And she goes off to Africa on her voyage. While she's gone, Jong-soo comes regularly to feed the cat. We never see the cat, prompting one to ask, is there a cat?
But there's a litter box that allegedly, according to him, has cat poop in it.
Well, we see it. I mean, definitely, there is cat poop in it.
Well, we don't know that that's cat poop. I mean, he's assuming it's cat poop.
That's true. It could be human feces. We don't.
It could be.
Another Philip Seymour Hoffman reference. We don't get the shot of Jong-soo investigating the droppings with like a wooden spoon, like in Sindoche, New York. Charlie Kaufman watched this and he went, coward. But we're told the cat is very timid and scared of new people. My note just says cranking Rod because every time he goes to her apartment to feed the cat, he stares out the window and masturbates.
So he's literally masturbating to the sunset, to like the ray of light that happens to hit that window once a day for, I don't know, 30 seconds. That she references this the first time he comes over. Is that what's happening?
I thought it was like he was more masturbating to the scenery because he's just from the podunk, the backwoods, and so
he's aroused by the apartment.
Yes, he's aroused by the apartment and the view. We get a scene of Jong-soo meeting with his dad's lawyer. His dad's lawyer is explaining that your dad's like not going to take responsibility for this, and he's not going to take any type of plea deal. You need to talk to him and explain to him, he needs to do this. Does the dad character, actor, what have you, is there any lines of dialogue uttered by him in this movie?
I don't think so. I think he has like 30 seconds of screen time towards the end. More importantly, does the dad subplot have any relevance to the story at all? And the answer is no.
That was going to be my next question, but you beat me to it. It's like, does this impact his behavior in any other happening or scenario? It does not.
You could just remove the entire subplot about the dad being in prison, and man, you might actually get close to a 2-hour-long movie.
It's like in Metal Gear Solid 2 when you have to help Emma, like you forget about it and then you come back to like, fuck, I have to do this again. This is just going to take up too much time.
The dad storyline is a DLC that you can just unlock later if you want more of the world of burning.
I forget what the Last of Us DLC was called, but it was something, it wasn't more Last of Us, but I could just see, the dad subplot is Jong-soo's father story coming this fall. Get with season pass.
You have to go collecting signatures. That's the entire level.
Yes, it's like Second Life. You just walk from door to door because he's trying to. He writes a letter to the judge, and then is trying to prove that like the townspeople think he's a good man.
Never comes back.
Nope.
that plot beat.
That's why it's DLC, or it's GTA 3, the missions you don't have to do to like finish the game. GTA 3, I'm specifically thinking of the payphones around Vice City that you walk up to and they're like, "Yeah, man, be here and do this," but it has really no bearing on the rest of the game.
Collect signatures to free your dad. Don't feel like it.
Just jump in the car and I run. Jaime returns home. My note says she's back with that guy.
She comes back with a movie star.
Glenn from The Walking Dead, Steven Yeun. He shows up. He's got some pretty weird energy about him. What does it say here? They are stranded at the Nairobi airport for 3 days after a bombing nearby. When they come back home, she arrives with Ben, a man whom she met and bonded with during the crisis. The three go out to dinner, where Jaime cries and confesses that she wants to disappear. Ben is well off, but does not give a clear answer when asked what he does for a living. So yeah, they go to dinner, and our female lead of the movie, Jeon Jong-seo, Jaime, she has this wild story about watching this sunset, and then just like she starts crying, talking about it, and wishing she could like disappear. It's kind of sad and a bit of a cry for help, but then she just kind of falls asleep at the dinner table, and everyone's like, women.
That's her quirk, because the first time she went out with Jeon-soo, she also fell asleep at the bar.
She does have some like manic pixie dream girl tendencies inside of, you know, a kind of darker movie. She doesn't have like an air camera that she takes pictures with,
but she likes to dance.
She does like to dance. There's a specific manic pixie dream girl sequence later in the movie. She doesn't make up words.
She makes up dance moves.
I guess she does. But yeah, her thing is she falls asleep whenever she's tired, wherever she is. Some people would call that narcolepsy.
This movie calls it adorable. So Alex, is this her Oscar clip, or is her Oscar clip one of her dance sequences?
Did they ever do scenes with nudity at the Oscars? I can't remember. Like when they show them, do they just blur people out?
But she has one dance sequence where she's not naked.
Yeah, that one's awkward though, because everyone's looking at her like she's an idiot. No, her scene would be when she's telling the story about the well, and they're all looking into the sunset, but the camera's facing them, because she's making like these expressions, and her facial language reflects resentment that isn't reflected in her words. So I'd say that one.
There you go. Well, this is a close second. This one's for the Golden Globes.
My next note says, "LOL, fuck this guy," because Ben is just intolerable. I did laugh when Jong-soo says, "How is he this young with this much money?" And then he said he's a great Gatsby. And Jaime's like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, I mean, they're both pretty insufferable in their own ways. It was, once I realized, well, at least I thought that by then we'd finally found what the movie was going to be about, and it was going to be about this love triangle. I'm like, I get it. There's a really awkward guy that can't even be joyful when he masturbates, and then there's a really up his ass rich guy that thinks he's the shit, and these two are gonna vie for the affection of this really quirky girl that is trying to find herself. And I was like, okay, well, that's I guess a romantic comedy in the making. It ended up being something much, much darker. But at this point, I'm like, all right, if that's what we're going for, man, this is gonna be painful, because I hate everybody. I don't hate her, but she just kind of, I just wish that she had better taste in men. And then the two guys are just, God, who would want to spend time with them? I guess Steven Yeun has money, so that kind of goes a little bit. I get why his friends hang out with him, but still. Were you bummed that we got Steven Yeun playing an asshole, or was that what you expected based on his acclaimed appearance? And I think you should leave.
Yeah, that's about the extent of my knowledge of him, so I didn't know what to expect here. But based on your reaction and my sister's reaction, who watched this with me, it seemed like it was kind of a not what you're used to with him.
A departure
for you Glenn heads. Yeah,
he was he was probably the nicest person in The Walking Dead. Of course, that's why they killed him the most horrible way.
So, back to it.
So the question should be begged is like, why is Jong-soo hanging out with them? Like, they're just kind of obviously doing their own thing.
Well, they needed a ride at first.
That, but then the next time they hang out, she like asks him to meet somewhere, and then he's with them. And as someone who's been in a situation similar to that before, I just said, okay, I'm leaving. Of like, if you're going to have the temerity to do this and act oblivious to what's going on, I'll catch you on the other side.
What's the alternative, Alex? What else is he doing with his life that he's not going to have dinner that Steven Yeun is paying for?
He owns a farm. Go do shit on your farm, man. You got a calf there that loves you.
Doesn't seem like much fun. I mean, I know he has to be at the farm to answer those phone calls that lead nowhere, but still, he gets to spend time with the upper class.
Oh man, yeah. So Ben makes them dinner, and then it somehow leads to them going out with Ben's friends, and I fucking hate these people, man. Mainly, not these people specifically, but these types of people. You go to
my note says rich people suck.
That's like the type of people that have taken over Austin over the past decade. The people that are so interested in themselves and the things they do. They love telling stories so they can be the center of attention from, people they want to make jealous.
Mm-hmm.
You and I have hung out enough that we have stories and shit, and we have stories we tell. But for the most part, whenever you and I hang out or in bigger groups or anything like that, you and me catch up, talk about, the chips are good, that type of thing. We're just like cordial folk. You and I both know people, I'm not thinking of anyone specifically, but those types of people who want to command the room with their stories. And it's just, when you have a whole group of people like that, that's depicted here, and I've been out enough places, and I hate Austin fucking sucks, but I'll spare Austin this. You can find that in any big city.
Anyway.
You go to like a nicer, any nicer bar or high-end restaurant, you'll see these people that are so in love with themselves, and they want to hear your story about going to Africa so they can top it with their story about the time, it's a group of Justins.
God, I was waiting to make that reference. Even Pawnee has them.
Yes, it's a group of Justins. There you go.
Yeah, they want to hear your story so that they can later tell your story as part of their story.
Exactly. In this case, this scene bothered me way more than it should, just because I've seen and know people like this, and I was just like, God, fuck this. They're all very pretty, though.
Well, yeah. Well, when you have money and you can just dedicate a lot of time to looking good, you can get pretty close to the target. My note, Alex, says literally, man, somebody better get murdered soon if this movie is going to justify its runtime.
This movie would have to speed up to go at a snail's pace. And so why not? Ben and Jaime come out to Jong-soo's farm to visit him. She calls him like, hey, we're coming out there. I'd be like, no, you're fucking not. It's like, I like you. I'm smitten with you, and you think it's just okay to hang around me with this other dude, and it's not. So
okay, so in her defense, he doesn't have game. He brought them from the airport, and then there was that crucial moment where he could have offered to take her home. And you can tell she wants him to take her home. But he's like, oh, no, that's okay. I got a long drive. And, well, can't blame her now. I mean, she gave him a chance. And then throughout the movie, she keeps giving him chances.
Yeah, that's a particularly brutal scene because you can tell he wants her to, say it. And it's like, that's not how the real world works, buddy.
She already let you have sex with her. How about you make a move for once?
Yeah. Step it up. Step up your game, brother. So they do visit, and this is where we get the Manic Pixie Dream Girl sequence where she dances in the sunset, eventually removing her top and dancing around topless, and then starts crying.
Steven Yeun's brought the world's most powerful weed to this get-together.
Not before telling a story of when they were little kids and she fell in a well nearby, and she alleges that Jong-soo rescued her.
this story, the story of the well, is just going to haunt the rest of the movie. And after the credits roll, it will probably haunt you, and not for a good reason, just because it's just one of those itches that you can't scratch. I hate that we finished the movie and we don't know what was true and what wasn't about that well. Or did I miss something? Did you get some sort of closure when it comes to that well story?
Was I supposed to? Was I supposed to get closure at all with this movie?
Well, every time that something is brought up about that well, it's treated like some major revelation that I thought was supposed to indicate that, oh, well, now we figure it out, right? Because at some point they're like, no, there was never a well. And then somebody else is like, oh, she's always making up stories. And then somebody else says, no, there was a well. And it's like, and he doesn't remember, or he acts like he doesn't remember saving her, but she says that he said. I was like, it's a big mystery that envelops the second half of the movie, and then there's no resolution. Like, I really wanted the last shot of the movie, I don't know, to be like the blueprints of the farm, and then you can see that there was clearly a well, or maybe a flashback to when she fell. I just wanted answers.
The ending of it should have been a panning shot to the well,
and she's still there. She never got out. The entire thing was just...
Christian Bale's in it, and he's climbing out. My takeaway from the well thing is that it was up to the audience to figure out if they think it really happened or not. Because as you mentioned already, we find out from Jaime's sister and mother, I believe, that she's a perpetual liar and sounds like a bit of a sociopath and makes shit up. But Jong-soo is so taken by her, he doesn't know what to believe.
That's some bullshit. The whole, like, you guys figure it out. That's like, it's not my movie. You made the movie. You don't give me homework after.
You made me sit here for 2.5 hours for this? I'll tell you what Jong-soo does know and won't forget was getting high on marijuana. It's a big fucking deal, man.
Alex, there's no way that it's... I think that's been established throughout the run of the show that my experience with drugs is less than minimal, but... They take like one puff, like one, they just go once and then they're just blasted out of their minds. That's not how it works.
I mean, it depends. If you're already high and you take another hit, it can just immediately, I mean, allegedly, but.
Have you ever seen anybody be so high that they just strip and start dancing?
Probably. But not in such like a menacing, foreboding, like one of these people's a murderer kind of way. It was just kind of like, look at that. And here with the fucking tiny ass joint that they're puffing on, yeah, they immediately get stoned, and it would take a good 10 minutes for that shit to set in. I mean, who knows? It could be some unbelievable pot. Considering it's South Korea, I highly doubt it, because. South Korea.
You don't think Steven Yeun has? You don't think Steven Yeun has the hookup? He's got money.
It's pretty hard to find weed in South Korea because it's like super illegal, and that's not exclusive to South Korea. Japan too is like big fucking deal.
That's right, and Steven Yeun doesn't do any super illegal things in this movie.
That's true also. Maybe he got it in Africa. Maybe he got it in the United States or something. Who knows? But anyway, as one would expect if they've ever watched a movie with marijuana involved before, it leads to the, well, one, Jaime takes a nap. She falls asleep.
She dances herself out.
Hey, we all been there, man. But then Ben and Jong-soo have, your classic stoned conversation where Jong-soo very quickly begins to massively overshare details about his life. And I mean, it doesn't have to be exclusive to marijuana. I think everyone has been in that situation. If you haven't been guilty of it, I know I have before, but that situation of like, if you're just drunk with your friend and they start like telling you a bunch of shit that, not that they shouldn't, but it's like, hey man, read the room, read the vibe. This isn't the time to talk about this.
You were so right though about Steven Yeun and his friends always trying to one up people. Because Jong-soo is like, man, I hate my dad. And then Steven Yeun goes, yeah, I like to burn greenhouses.
He just has to, up the ante. And this is like right as the sun's rising, right at the break of dawn. And one of the interesting things I read, the scene in which the main characters talk at Jong-soo's house was filmed over a month. They were only able to shoot a few minutes each day to capture consistent twilight on camera.
Jesus.
Now, psychopaths like you would be like, why didn't they just green screen it and light it?
Yes.
That's literally that bit from 30 Rock where Jenna goes to Iceland to film that werewolf movie that they only have 1 minute of darkness each day because of the solstice.
So this is Steven Yeun's Oscar clip.
Easily. And my note just says, "Oh, he crazy."
So you were sure, because I had this. I was giving them the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, look, we are more than halfway through the movie at this point. It's probably too late for them to really turn him into a psychopath. So instead, maybe he's just a rich asshole that's fucking with this guy. You know, I thought that he was. I think that he was really doing any of these things that he was saying he was doing. He was just fucking with the townie, with the guy at the farm that, you know, will believe it because he doesn't know any better. But I was wrong.
Oh yeah, he likes burning down greenhouses, and he'll occasionally find one that he deems worthy of burning down, and he does that every 2 months. And it had been a while since he had done one, so he needs to find another one soon to burn down. And he explains that he had been looking around Jong-soo's neighborhood and thinks he found one that he's going to burn. If you're thinking this sounds too on the nose and might be analogous for something, you might be onto something. The next morning, and sadly, it'll be the last thing that he says to Jaime. Says, "Why do you take your clothes off around people? Only whores do that." Might want to rethink those words, my friend.
Man, that's how you ruin a good memory. You guys had a good party, and then you have to run your mouth like that. Did you have a feeling at this point, Alex, that this was the last we were going to see of Jaime?
I had no idea. At this point, you know, we're almost an hour and a half into the movie, and I was just like, what? I was waiting for the movie to start. Yeah, I was waiting to like figure out what we're doing here.
You were wondering what happened to all those signatures that Jong-soo was collecting.
And then I was like, okay, what does any of this have to do with the fucking phone calls that he keeps getting and hung up on?
What is he going to write his novel about?
So he's unsuccessful reaching Jaime. He quits his job, just walks out. His boss like asks him a question and he just leaves.
He wants to be a badass like Steven Yeun.
It's not a montage because nothing in this movie can be concise, but it's a sequence of events where he's going around trying to see if anyone knows where she is without directly approaching Ben yet. But then eventually he just ends up stalking Ben, so it was all for naught.
Well, he's alternating between trying to reach Jaime and also checking on all the greenhouses around his neighborhood.
That's right, yeah. And at one point, someone catches him and is like, "What the hell are you doing here?" He's like, "Oh, just looking." And my thought at that point is like, "Oh, he's going to get framed for arson."
Yep. Nothing suspicious going on around here, officer. No, I don't know anybody that wants to burn a greenhouse.
But in fact, what is a greenhouse? He's like Smalls in The Sandlot. I don't know anything about it.
You're killing me, Smalls.
Okay, well now, Alex, we've had 20 minutes of this dude unsuccessfully trying to reach this girl. Are you now getting that feeling that maybe she's gone for good? Or were you like, this dude is just obsessed and he can't take a hint?
Well, I am getting that feeling because I know it's what the movie wants me to feel. It's interesting, though, because they intersperse it with that scene we talked about where he goes and sees her mom and her sister, and they're just like, oh, yeah, fuck her. Like, she lies. She owes, like, so much money. She's in debt up to her eyeballs.
And he's like, but she went to Africa.
Yeah. He's like, we had sex. Don't you understand this? So he frantically goes back to her apartment, and he had previously exchanged pleasantries with her landlord and explains I need to get in the apartment to feed the cat. And I do like this part because she's like, there is no cat. We don't allow pets here. An American movie would have, Hans Zimmer's score intensify in that moment. Like, but instead it's just kind of quiet, and they go in there and she's like, see, if I can told you there's no cat in here. And the apartment's way cleaner than it usually is. The litter box is gone, etc., etc.
Her suitcase is there, though.
That's the big one, because the landlord said maybe she went on a trip, and he finds her suitcase, and he says, I don't think she went on any trip.
So, of course, he calls the police, right? There's enough evidence here, circumstantial as it may be, to maybe get professionals
At
the case.
At best, this guy is a serial arsonist. Like, I guess that's the thing, though. He's so concerned about, having. I guess that could be seen, though, as him being so worried about getting caught for smoking weed that he can't turn this guy in.
That's the problem in South Korea. You've scared them so much that if they ever smoke weed, then they can't report all their crimes.
He goes and finds Ben, approaches him in a coffee shop. He's reading a Faulkner book, and he asks if he knows where Jaime is. Of course, he doesn't, and it leads to more discussion of greenhouses. And said, I thought you were going to burn down a greenhouse near me. And he said, I did.
This is the face-off sequence.
Yes. He says, well, that can't be because I didn't see it. And he's like, maybe you aren't looking close enough. And it's like, oh, greenhouse means person, and he killed him.
Did he burn her, or did he just kill her? Is burning also some sort of... Is it metaphorical burning, or is it real burning?
Jesus. Anything about that. So Ben is super mysterious. He now has a new girlfriend. It's a lot like You, that show on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Except we're not following his plot. So, of course, at this point, Jong-soo can't put two and two together, so he's just like, well, I'm going to go look for this well and see if this thing really exists.
I've reached a dead end on this side quest, so I'm going to go on a different mission.
And we find that there is no well. There is no spoon. He continues stalking Ben. We get this really tense, it is like a chase sequence. He's following him closer to his home and ends up having to hide from him in his car because he turns it around on him. He knows he's being followed, and he ends up on foot getting that movie Creep with Mark Duplass.
Mm-hmm.
There's a shot I think it's like the end of that movie. There's a shot very similar to the one we have here of Yu Ah-in and Steven Yeun. Just he's blissfully unaware that he's right behind him, or is he?
I don't know, but it doesn't matter because that all of it doesn't
amount to a hill of beans, as they say, Julio.
It's just like a pretty shot of both of them facing the same direction with the car in between them. I guess Steven Yeun is just pondering how many more bodies he can sink in the lake
in his Tesla that he's driving. What is it? It's a Porsche that he's driving.
It's a Porsche. Yeah. And then that's it. They fade to black, and then the next day we just see Jong-soo wakes up. I was like, did I miss something? Because he wakes up and he's just kind of moaning when he wakes up, like his face hurts or something. And I thought maybe I had blinked and I had missed Steven Yeun catching him and punching him or something. But no, it's just a really weird transition. And I think that's when his mom calls him.
Yes. So the phone rings and it finally has a voice on the other end. Do you think it was his mom the whole time, or do you think those hang up calls were just a red herring?
His dad calling from prison, but he was too mad to really talk.
Or just the Michael Myers call and just breathing really loud into the phone. So the mom asks if we can meet, and it's a very, very short meeting with his mom's hot as fuck too. So props, good genetics on that side of the family. She's smiling and playing Candy Crush on her phone, but I think she's explaining that she's in debt to the mob.
Yes. I mean, it could be just that your standard debt collector is really scary in South Korea.
That's true. That is very true. So what's your read here? Because he says, I'll take care of it. It's no, you fucking won't. Was he just trying to get out of this meeting with his mom? I don't know. This scene kind of threw me a loop. In a movie that was very slow and plotting, and I felt everything was over-explained, this scene just kind of stuck out I don't know what. Like a shrimp cocktail at a buffet. You eat it really fast, and then you're like, well, fuck, I wish I would have savored that or had some more. Because I felt like there was something here, but I couldn't make sense out of what we got.
Well, I think the problem is that there's no purpose to it. The only thing that comes out of this scene is that the mom contradicts what people have been telling him and tells him, no, yeah, there was a well. But man, you could have had somebody else say that. You already had Jaime's family say that there wasn't a well. right? So you could have had the guy that lived over there, because, he talks to one of the neighbors, and the neighbor also says there wasn't a well, but you could have had that guy say there was a well. And then that's it. You already accomplished what you are going to accomplish with the mom scene, which, yeah, you're right, doesn't lead anywhere. He offers to give her the money, and she's like, oh, you have money? And then that's it. We never see her again. It never becomes relevant to the story.
So if she didn't take his money, why did they meet to begin with?
Right. And what made her suddenly call him? Why is she there? Why was she? Because you're right. If she was not the one calling, then what the fuck was up with the phone calls to begin with? So we have to assume that she was the one calling, and then something made her finally have the courage to tell him, hey, it's me. You want to hang out? And then, okay, so she has a debt. And so you're like, all right, so the reason that she's been calling is because she wants to ask money from him. But why would she think that he has the money? I mean, I know she doesn't know that he quit his job, but still, like, what would make you think that he has the money? So maybe it's one of those things that in an earlier version of the script was more fleshed out and made more sense. Or maybe it's something from the book that they just couldn't cut.
Who's to say, really?
Lee Chan-dong. He's to say. He has to say.
He's supposed to have said.
Yeah.
Ben catches Jung-soo outside of his apartment very creepily, invites him in, says he's having a gathering. While inside, he notices he has a cat. He asks, when did you get that? And he said, I just recently brought in a stray. He comments on how cute the cat is. And I'm not even a cat person, Julio, and that was a very cute cat. So Jung-soo's immediately, not accusatory. What's the phrase I'm looking for? His spidey sense is tingling. He thinks this could potentially be a Haimi's cat. And so he goes into the bathroom to kind of regroup himself. The first time he went to Ben's apartment, he looked through his shit in the bathroom, which is always a smart thing to do at someone you've never been to his house before. And he found this makeup kit and then a drawer that had a bunch of miscellaneous jewelry in it. And so the makeup kit's still there, but he opens the drawer and the watch from the beginning of the movie's in there. So he has taken something from Haimi at this point. Could be the cat too, as in the next sequence, one of his guests comes over, leaves the door open, the cat gets out, goes to the parking garage below. Ben, the guest, and Jung-soo go down to look for the cat. Jung-soo is able to corner it. It's very scared. It's very tepid. It's a very cute cat. And he says, here, kitty, kitty, that type of thing. And then he whispers, Boyle, Boyle, the cat's name, and the cat immediately runs and jumps into his arms.
That's nonsense. I call bullshit.
That's not how cats work. I have 4 cats. That's not how cats work. I could tell you the names of all my cats, and then I dare you. I'll bet you like $100. See if you can call them, and they'll come to you. Like, they barely come to me when I call them by their names. And this dude, he had never seen the cat. There's no way.
So he helps the cat get back upstairs. Then he takes off to leave. He's obviously scared, rightly so. Ben asks why he's leaving. And he just says, I was going to talk to you about Jaime, but I think I have my answers now. And Ben gets really close to him and reiterates some words he said about, quote, burning down greenhouses. He puts his hand over his heart and he said, you need to feel bass in your heart here. Which I guess is
he leans closer and whispers in his ear, I killed her.
He leans in and he whispers, I'm gonna kill John Lennon. Yeah, you should be on our Patreon. You'll get that reference right there. So he more or less has figured out, or believes he's figured out what's happened. His father's sentenced
so
to
now he's going to go to the police.
I mean, in a way, he goes to a courthouse to see his dad's sentencing. His dad gets sentenced for 18 months in prison. He sells the calf, which was like the only remaining animal at the farm. Kind of sweet moment. He talked to the calf all the time and never really thought it was retaining anything. And the calf, like, it's almost like a Pixar moment. The calf, like, says goodbye to him when he gets loaded into the back of the truck to the farmers he sold it to. So he somehow moves into Jaime's apartment.
Oh, that's what happened. Okay. I was like, that looks different. That's not his house. Completely. Wow. I completely missed that. Because I was going to say, and then he's inspired to finally start writing whatever he ends up writing.
I assume he writes his whole story. He's basically tying up all the loose ends that have been introduced throughout the movie. Why, you might ask? Jong-soo asks to meet Ben in the countryside, claiming he is with Hae-mi. Ben sees that Hae-mi is not there and asks Jong-soo where she is. Jong-soo stabs him to death. He then douses Ben's car and body, and this says gasoline. I'm going to guess it's kerosene to pay off what Ben had said earlier in the movie. Yeah. And then he just strips down naked and tosses all of his blood-soaked clothes into the car. And then he kind of like that walk when it's like you're waking up to piss or get water at 5 a.m., but you're still drunk. And he's just kind of like, ugh. Like you're already starting your hangover, but you're still drunk. That's the walk he has here. He stumbles naked to his truck and drives off. And I remember being like, well, is the thing even on fire? And he drives by and it's like this giant fireball. I was like, oh yeah, I guess so.
And that is not a metaphorical fire. That's a real fire. He did set him on fire.
Most certainly is. And it takes Steven Yeun forever to die. He's just kind of, it's
Paul Rubens.
What's Paul Rubens or what is Ben Stiller's name? Tug Speedman in Tropic Thunder. Is I'm gonna teach you how to juggle. So that's the end of the movie. I guess Jong-soo had to become a monster to fight the monsters of the world.
Justice was served. The only way possible.
Question mark.
Okay, well, maybe this is real talk, but fuck it. Let's take care of it here. Do you believe that Steven Yeun killed Hae-mi?
Oof. Well, the movie definitely doesn't introduce anything that would make you second guess it. He's very creepy in this. But where's the body? Without a body, you got no case. That's like literally how the law works, brother.
This is not a trial. I'm just asking you as like a person. Do you believe that he killed her?
Yes, specifically because
your response will not send him to the electric chair or anything. I just want to know how you read the movie.
I thought it was kind of ambiguous until that shot where he had his new girlfriend and was putting makeup on her. I was like, oh man, yeah, this dude's psychotic.
Only psychos put makeup on their girlfriends.
No, only psychos put makeup on their girlfriends at like 2 inches away from their face with uninterrupted eye contact. And she looks scared too, that actress.
I thought it was pretty clear that he had killed her. It never occurred to me that it was meant to be ambiguous. And then when I was going through quotes and stuff, I was like, oh, I guess it's actually supposed to be ambiguous, that you're not supposed. We'll talk about it in real talk. Because this could go on a big conversation, but
yes, I to just put a period on it, I do think he killed her.
Okay, well, I guess we're on the same side there. But that's it. And it only took 2.5 hours, but we finally got to an exciting scene in this movie.
Yep. They waited until it was closing time to play the best song on the jukebox. So when you walked out of there, you're like, well, that wasn't such a bad night after all.
It took Steven Yeun forever to die, but it was all right.
All right, Julio, are you ready to move this along to real talk? Not like burning. Are you ready to move this along in a concise manner?
Metaphorically, yes.
All right, let's move it along then.
점점 그레이트 헝거가 되어가는 거예요.